Welcome to this project. Today, we're building a modern and responsive fashion store website, Mistore, where users can browse and shop for the latest clothes and shoes. This website contains a clean and interactive product section with multiple items, each showing an image, name, price, and an add to cart button. Users can search for products in real time using the search bar, making it super easy to find exactly what they want. We also have a fully functional shopping cart that updates automatically whenever products are added or removed, showing the total number of items and the total price. Additionally, there's a payment section that displays all accepted methods like Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, American Express, and cash on delivery, giving the website a professional and trustworthy feel. Finally, the footer contains for organized columns, logo and about, quick links, shop categories, and social media icons, along with a bottom copyright section. Everything is designed to be clean, modern, and responsive with smooth hover effects, interactive buttons, and a fully functional user experience, all built using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So, let's learn together step by step how to build this complete project from scratch. Let's start with our header. It has our website logo, a navigation bar with home, shop, and contact, and finally a cart with item count. Here we have our header section. Inside it, the first element is a logo, which holds an image for our store. Next, we have a navigation bar with 3 links: home, shop, and contact. And finally, we added a cart icon with a span that shows the cart item count starting at 0. In our CSS, we start with a universal selector, the star, which resets the margin and padding for all elements, sets box sizing to border box for easier layout control, and applies the Poppins font across the site. Then for the body, we give it a light gray background, set the text color to dark gray, and define a line height of 1.6 to improve readability. Now let's style our header section with CSS. We start with the header itself. It has a dark background with white text. We use Flexbox to align everything in a row and with justify content space between the logo, navigation, and cart are spaced evenly. Align items center keeps everything vertically aligned. We also add some padding for spacing and make the header sticky at the top with a high Z index so it stays visible while scrolling. Next, for the logo container, we give it a fixed height and width of 70 pixels. Inside it, the logo image is set to take the full width and height, and we add border radius 50% to make it a perfect circle. For the navigation links, we add horizontal margins, set their color to light gray, remove the underline, and increase the font size to 16 pixels. A transition of 0.3 seconds is added for smooth effects, and on hover, the link color changes to orange. Finally, we style the cart icon by increasing its size to 20 pixels, adding a pointer, cursor, and setting position relative, which will help later if we want to add a badge or notification on top of the cart. Now let's insert our image so we can see our logo displayed inside the header. So now we've finished styling our header with CSS. Let's take a look on the right side, and yes, it matches our design perfectly. Great! Now, the next element we'll be working on is our bank offer section. So let's jump back into the HTML and start adding it. Now let's add our bank offers section. We start with a section element and give it a class name of bank offers. This will allow us to style it later with CSS and make it stand out. Inside the section, we create a div with the class offer slider. This div will act like a container that holds all of our offer messages and lets them animate smoothly across the screen. Then, we add several span elements inside this slider. Each span contains one piece of text that we want to display, such as the title CodeVibes bank offers, then the actual deals like 0% interest on credit cards, 0 down payment on the first purchase, and finally easy monthly installments available. By structuring it this way, we can use CSS animations to slide or rotate each of these span messages, creating a professional-looking banner that customers will notice right away. Now let's style our bank offers section. We start with the bank offers class, giving it a colorful gradient background and white text. The content is centered, the font size is set to 1 rem with bold weight, and we add some padding at the top and bottom. We also hide any overflowing content and set its position to relative. Next, inside we have the offer slider. It's displayed as inline block with white space set to norApp so all the offers stay in a single line. We also apply an animation called slide offers, which runs in 15 seconds, moves linearly, and repeats forever. Each span inside the slider is also inline block, with some horizontal margin to space the texts apart. Finally, the keyframes animation moves the slider from 100% on the right to -100% on the left, creating a smooth scrolling effect for our offers. Alright, it seems like our design is coming together just as planned. Now it's time to move on to the next element, which is our hero section. So let's jump right back into the HTML and start adding it. Now let's take a look at our hero section. We start with a section element, give it a class name of hero, and also add an ID of home so that our navigation link can scroll directly to this section. Inside the hero, the first element is an H1 heading that says "Welcome to our store." This acts as the main title and immediately grabs the user's attention. Below the heading, we have a paragraph element with some text that highlights our store's value. Here we say discover the best clothes and shoes at affordable prices. This works as a short tagline or description. And finally, we add a button with the class shop.btn, labeled Shop Now. This will act as our call to action, encouraging customers to start shopping right away. Now let's style our hero section. We begin with the hero class. It uses a background image combined with a dark transparent gradient on top. This makes the white text stand out clearly against the image. The background is centered, covers the entire section, and doesn't repeat. We set the text color to white, align everything in the center, and add generous padding at the top and bottom. A small border radius at the bottom corners gives the hero section a softer, modern look. Next, the heading inside the hero is styled with a large font size of 48 pixels and a margin below it to create spacing. The paragraph text is slightly smaller at 18 pixels, with extra margin to separate it from the button. Finally, we style the call to action button. It has an orange background with dark text, no border, rounded edges, and some padding for size. The font is set to 18 pixels, and we add a hover effect that changes the orange shade, making the button feel interactive and clickable. Let's see our design to check if our styling matches. Yes, it looks the same as our design. Great job! Now, what's our next element? It's the animated promo section. Let's jump into our HTML and start adding it. Here we're creating our promo banner section. Inside the section greater than with the class promo banner, we added 3 div greater than elements, each with the class promo card. These promo cards highlight special offers like a 50% summer sale, free shipping, and easy EMI or bank offers. This setup helps us showcase promotions in a clean and organized way, which we'll later style and animate with CSS to make it more attractive. Now, let's style our promo banner. The .promo banner uses Flexbox with display, flex, and we center the content using Justify Content Center. We also add some spacing with gap, 20px, and allow wrapping with flex wrap so the cards stay responsive on smaller screens. For each .promo card, we've given it a nice gradient background from orange to pink, white text color, and some padding. The rounded corners with border radius, 12px, and the box shadow give it a modern, card-like look. The text is bold and easy to read, and we added a hover-friendly cursor, pointer dot to make it more engaging. We used an animation called float. With keyframes, the card smoothly moves up and down, almost like it's floating. This adds a playful, eye-catching effect to our promo offers. Let's quickly check our design. Yes, it looks just like the one we wanted. Now, what's our next element? It's the Trust Badges section. Let's jump into our HTML and add it. Now we're adding our Trust Badges section. Inside the section with the class Trust Badges, we have 3 div greater than elements, each acting as a badge. The first highlights secure payments, the second shows fast delivery, and the third represents easy returns. These badges help build trust with our customers by showing key guarantees. Now let's look at the CSS for our Trust Badges section. The .trust-badges container is styled with Flexbox to place the badges side by side, centered on the page, with spacing between them and wrapping for smaller screens. Each .badge has a light gray background, padding for space, rounded corners, bold text, and a readable font size. We also add a smooth transition effect. On hover, the badge changes to an orange background with white text, and it slightly lifts upward with a translity effect, giving it a nice interactive feel. Great! Our Trust Badges section looks awesome. Now, let's move on to the next element, which is the search bar. Let's jump into our HTML and add it. Here we've added our search bar section. Inside it, there's just one input field with the placeholder text search for products ... single quotes. This will allow users to quickly look up items in our store. Now, let's fly into our CSS to style it. Here's the CSS for our search bar. First, the .search bar class centers the whole section and adds some margin at the top and bottom for spacing. Inside it, the input takes 60% of the page width but never exceeds 500 pixels, keeping it responsive. We give it 12 pixels of padding for comfortable typing, a light gray border, and rounded corners with a 25 pixel radius for a modern look. The font size is set to 16 pixels for readability. Finally, we add a smooth transition and a focus effect. So when users click on it, the border highlights with an orange color, giving a clean and interactive feel. Now our search bars look like our design, and now it is the time for our product section. Let us fly into our HTML file to add it. Now we're moving to the product section of our website. Here, I've created a section greater than with the class name products and an ID of products so we can easily style it with CSS or link to it from the navigation menu. Inside this section, I've added a div with the class product card. This card represents a single product, in this case, a red shirt. The card also includes two custom data attributes, data name and data price. These attributes store extra information about the product, like its name and price. Later, when we use JavaScript, we can grab these values to add items to the shopping cart. Inside the product card, the first div contains an image of the red shirt. The second div contains the product title, the price, and a button labeled Add to Cart. This way, each product is structured neatly and can be styled or interacted with easily. If we want to add more products, we just need to duplicate this card and change the details. As you see, I can simply take a copy of this product card and paste it to add more products to our website. Each one will have its own image, name, price, and button. Now, instead of repeating the process step by step, I'll paste all the products in order so we don't waste time, and you can see how the full product section looks with multiple items. Here we are. Now I've added all the products, as you can see. The section is complete with multiple items. So let's move on to our CSS file and start styling this product section. Now let's style our product section. First, I gave the .products container a grid display. I used grid template columns, repeat auto fit, min-max 300px, 1fr. This means the products will automatically adjust into responsive columns. Each card will take at least 300 pixels, and if there's extra space, they'll stretch evenly. I also added some spacing between them with gap, 30px, and some padding inside the section. Next, for the .product card, I used Flexbox with column direction. This keeps the image, title, price, and button stacked vertically. The card has a white background, rounded corners with border radius, 12px, and a soft shadow to give it a modern, clean look. I also centered all the text and content and added padding inside. I set cursor, pointer so it feels clickable, and I used transition for smooth hover effects. On hover, the card moves slightly down using transform, translity 5px, giving it a subtle interactive effect. Finally, for the product image, I set its width to 90% of the card, kept the height automatic, added rounded corners, and some margin at the bottom to separate it from the text. Now it is time to insert our product's images to HTML file and get back again. Now, as you see, after adding the product images, the layout is clear and well organized. So let's continue by styling the product title, the price, and the Add to Cart button to make everything look more professional. For the product title, which is the H3 greater than, I gave it a dark color, increased the font size to 20 pixels, made it bold, and added some margin at the bottom to separate it from the price. Next, for the price inside the P tag, I set the font size a bit smaller at 18 pixels, also made it bold, and used a nice orange color hashtag FF9800 so it stands out. I also added margin at the bottom to give space before the button. Finally, for the .add dash to dash cart button, I styled it with a black background and white text. I removed the default border, added padding to make it more clickable, and rounded the corners with a border radius of 25 pixels for a modern pill-shaped look. I also added a hover effect. When you move the mouse over the button, the background changes to orange and the text switches to black. This gives a nice interactive feel. Let's check our design. I think it is look very nice. Our next element is cart. Let's go to our HTML. Now let's create our cart section. I started with a section and gave it the class cart section. Inside, I added a heading H2 that says your cart so users know this area shows what they've added. Then, I used an unordered list UL with the ID cart items. This is where all the selected products will be displayed dynamically using JavaScript. Each time a product is added, it will appear here as a list item. Finally, I added a paragraph P to show the total price of the cart. Inside it, I used a span greater than with the ID cart total, and for now it starts at 0.00. With JavaScript, we'll update this number every time a product is added or removed. Now let's style our cart section. For .cart section, I gave it a white background, centered it on the page with margin 50px auto, and set a maximum width of 800 pixels. I also added 30 pixels of padding inside, rounded the corners with border radius 12px, and used a softbox shadow to give it a clean card-like design. For the heading inside .cart section H2, I added some space at the bottom and centered the text. Then, for the paragraph, I made the text bold and also centered it so the total looks clear. The .cart items list has no bullet points because I set list style none, and I added margin at the bottom to separate it from the total. Each cart item inside .cart items has 10 pixels of padding, a light border at the bottom to separate items, and I used Flexbox with justify content, space between so the product name stays on the left and the price aligns to the right. Finally, for the hashtag cart dash total, I made it bold, increased the font size to 20 pixels, and gave it the same orange color hashtag FF9800 we used before, so it matches the product price styling. Now, our next element is payment logos. Here we go. Now, let's add a payment section so users can quickly see which methods are accepted. I created a section greater than with the class payment logos. Inside, I added a heading H2 that says we accept. Below that, I used a div with the class logos. Inside this container, I placed several greater than tags, each one showing a payment method logo: Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, American Express, and even cash on delivery. This makes the website more trustworthy and clear for customers since they immediately know the available payment options. Now let's style the payment section. For .payment logos, I centered the text, added padding inside, and gave it some margin at the top and bottom. I also used a light gray background, rounded the corners with border radius 12px, and applied a softbox shadow to make it stand out slightly from the page. For the heading .payment logos H2, I set the font size to 1.4 rem, gave it a dark gray color, and added some space at the bottom. Next, for the container logos, I used Flexbox to align all the payment images in a row, centered them with justify content. Center added a gap of 25 pixels between each logo and used flex wrap so the logos will move to the next line on smaller screens. Finally, for the images themselves, I set their height to 40 pixels and added a hover effect. When the user hovers over any logo, it smoothly scales up a little bit using a transform effect, which makes the section more interactive and modern. Let's insert our payment logos. We've reached the footer of our website, so let's fly ahead and add it in. Now let's add the footer section to our website. I started with a footer element and gave it the class footer. Inside, I created a container div with the class footer container to hold all the footer columns. In the first column, I placed the website logo inside an H2 and added a short description paragraph telling users this is their one-stop shop for the latest fashion trends. In the second column, I created a list of quick links like About Us, Contact, FAQ, and Returns. These are useful navigation shortcuts for customers. The third column is a shop section with links to categories like men, women, shoes, and accessories. Then in the fourth column, I added social media icons inside a div called Socials. Each one is in a greater than tag with an image inside for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. This helps customers connect with the store on social platforms. Finally, below the main container, I added another div with the class footer bottom. Inside, I placed a copyright line that says, Copyright 2025 CodeVibes-Mahmoud. All rights reserved. So overall, our footer is divided into 4 useful columns with a bottom copyright section. Now, let's style our footer section. First, for the footer, I gave it a dark background with number 222, set the text color to a light gray, and added padding to give space around the content. Next, the footer container uses Flexbox. I set display flex with justify content, space between to spread the columns apart, and I also used flex wrap so the footer stays responsive on smaller screens. A maximum width of 1200 pixels keeps it centered. Each column uses the class .footer-col. I gave them flexible sizing with flex, one and a minimum width of 200 pixels so they don't shrink too much on smaller devices. For the logo inside the footer, I set a larger font size of 1.5 rem and made the text white. For the headings, H3 greater than, I used 1.2 rem, white color, and some margin at the bottom for spacing. The paragraph text inside .footer-col has a smaller font size, about 0.95 rem, with line height 1.5 to make it easy to read. For the quick links and shop links, I removed the bullet points with list style, none, and gave each list item some margin at the bottom. The links are styled in light gray with no underline. On hover, they change to orange #F8COO, which adds a nice interactive effect. Next, the social media icons inside .SOCIALS are set to 28 pixels wide with spacing between them. I also added a hover effect. When you move the mouse over an icon, it smoothly scales up using transform. Finally, the .footer bottom is centered, has a subtle top border for separation, and a slightly smaller font size with lighter gray color to show the copyright text clearly without being too bold. Altogether, this styling makes the footer clean, modern, and responsive across different devices. Now our website is ready and clear, but there's still one important thing left. We need to make the search bar work so it can find products, and also make the Add to Cart button update the counter and calculate the total price inside the cart. And all of that will be done using JavaScript. Alright, let's go ahead and create our JavaScript file so we can start adding functionality to our website. First, we need to add our script file inside the HTML so the browser can load it. Now, let's start building the functionality of our website with JavaScript. First, I created some constants to grab elements from the HTML. Cart attempts container selects the UL greater than where all added products will be listed. Cart count selects the cart counter so we can update the number of items. Cart total selects the total. Price span inside the cart. Search bar grabs the search input so we can filter products later. And Add to Cart button selects all the buttons with the class Add to Cart, so whenever the user clicks one, we can add that product into the cart. Then I created an empty array called cart. This will be used to store all the products the user adds, so we can manage them and calculate the total. Now let's create the update cart function, which is responsible for refreshing the cart whenever we add or remove products. At the beginning, I clear out the cart list by setting cart items container in our HTML to an empty string. Then I start two counters, total items for the number of products, and total price for the total cost. Next, I loop through the cart array using for each. For each item, I increase the total items by its quantity, and I also calculate the total price by multiplying the product price with its quantity. Then I create a new list elemently and insert the product name, its price, and also a small remove button. To make the remove button work, I add an event listener. When it's clicked, it filters the cart array and removes that product, then calls update cart again to refresh the display. Finally, I append the list item into the cart container, and at the end of the function, I update the cart counter and the total price by setting their text content. So every time this function runs, the cart is completely updated and always shows the latest items, quantities, and total price. Now let's add the functionality for our Add to Cart buttons. First, I loop through all the buttons using for each. For each button, I add a click event listener. When the user clicks a button, I find the closest .product card using e.target.closest. From there, I grab the product name from the h3 tag and the product price from the p tag. I also use parseflow to convert the price from text into a number. Next, I check if this product already exists in the cart by using cart.find. If it exists, I simply increase its quantity by 1. If it doesn't exist yet, I push a new object into the cart with the product name, its price, and set the quantity to 1. Finally, I call update cart so the cart display, item counter, and total price are refreshed instantly. This makes sure every time a customer clicks Add to Cart, the product is saved and the cart updates correctly. Finally, let's make the search bar work so users can quickly find products. I added an event listener to the search bar that listens for any input. Each time the user types something, I grab the value from the search bar and convert it to lowercase. To make the search case dash insensitive, then I select all the product cards on the page. I loop through each product and get its name from the less than h3 greater than tag, also converting it to lowercase. Next, I check if the product name includes the search value. If it does, I display the product by setting display block. If not, I hide it with display none. This way, as the user types, only the matching products are shown, making it easy to find exactly what they're looking for. And that's it. Our modern and fully functional fashion store website is now complete. We've built a clean product section with interactive add-to-cart buttons, a real-time search bar, a dynamic shopping cart that updates totals automatically, a professional payments section, and a well-organized footer. Everything is responsive, visually appealing, and fully functional, all created using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I hope you enjoyed building this project as much as I did. And now you can take these skills and create your own amazing web projects. Do not forget to like and subscribe. Drop a comment for any questions. Thanks for following along, and see you in the next tutorial.